Part one of my conversation with Joe Mazzulla, Boston Celtics head coach, talking about his marriage, his inspiration there, his parade celebration, and finding inspiration on Broadway. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Bean Town's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karallis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This has been 3 days a week for the last couple of weeks. Today it's going to be 4 days a week because I delivered on that promise of a very special guest. It's Joe Mazzulla. It's Boston Celtics head coach champion, joining me for a two-part podcast. We had a nice long conversation. So part one today, part two tomorrow. Later on, his inspiration from Broadway actors. In the second segment, we'll talk about his parade, his just intense, we called it a release at the parade. And we're going to start with his relationship with his wife. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's get started right now with our guy, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, NBA champion, Joe Mazzulla. Appreciate you hopping on the podcast for a little bit. How has your summer gone?
It's been good. I mean, it's funny. It hasn't really been any different than any other summer we've had since we've been in the NBA. You spend the month, usually a month after the season is kind of what I diagnose the entire season, because you have fresh in your mind what worked, what didn't, where you have to get better at. So you try to spend the next 30 to 45 days kind of doing that. And then you kind of unwind a little bit, and then you kind of filter back into just finding the themes and the concepts of what you can apply on where you need to get better. So the process remains the same. I like to travel a little bit. So really not that much different.
I mean, a little bit different. I mean, you don't normally take the Larry O'Brien trophy back to the Rhode Island State House. I mean, that's a little bit different from your usual summer, right? I mean, that had to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. It was great. Really, again, the goal at the beginning of the season was just, committing to the identity of the city and really the area, just, the Celtics being the area's team as far as New England. So the fact that we got to take it to a few places within Massachusetts, and then obviously yesterday getting to take it to Rhode Island and really just, I think I mentioned it in the speech about, I left Rhode Island at such a young age as a kid kind of, and now I've come back here as an adult and reconnecting with the relationships and the people that have kind of helped me get to where I am. Being able to say thank you in person that was fun.
I always believe that there's always, no matter where we go, no matter what we do in life, there's always a little piece of us that's still like stuck in high school. There's always like that little bit of, who we always were, who we were back then sticks with us. Now you're walking through Bishop Hendricken, right? You're going back to high school, walking through those hallways. You've got the trophy on you. That has to have like a little bit of a different kind of feeling, right? Like you're back to the old stomping ground, but here you are as a championship head coach. What was that feeling like?
It's funny. I still felt, I don't know if inadequate's the word, but my high school coach has won 15 state championship, has run 7 in a row and 4 in a row twice. And so like, it felt like I'm almost where he's at. But to me, it felt gratitude, like thanking him because, he coached me for 4 years. And I think, like you said, you do have pieces of everybody, whether it's in coaching or just in life. And I have pieces of Coach Gomes, and I have pieces of, there's still friendships today that I have at Bishop Hendricken. And so I think high school is the most important part of your years. And that's one of the best decisions I made. I'm grateful that I got to do that. I'm grateful I sent my son to a similar school, and just gratitude, being able to thank, there was about 5 or 6 coaches that are still there today that were there when I was there. And so just a sense of gratitude was really the coolest thing. And then also just reconnecting with the kids. I think you owe it to the people, after you. So just kind of being, was in the weight room for a little while, I was on the court for a little while, just kind of being around kids and just giving back, I think, is important.
So let's take it back to the night of the championship. I'm sitting there working. I see you and your wife, Kamei, walking around. I know you've talked about that moment a little bit. And I know you guys have talked about kind of revisiting each other after seasons. Was that kind of like part of the start of that process? What was that moment like for you? And just in a bigger picture, like, your relationship with your wife seems to be extraordinarily important, and it's something you bring up a lot. What does it mean to share that moment with her, and what's this summer been like?
Yeah, it's funny. We thought we were alone, but apparently we weren't.
Very not alone in the afterglow of a championship.
It was the beginning of that process of just building perspective. We talked, that was kind of like our gratitude walk. That's something that's important to us, especially during the playoffs. We spent a lot of time together. She always travel. And it was just it was the first time all night that we thought we were alone. And we were alone from the standpoint of it was just us. And, I take those laps before the game for prayer and perspective. And after the game, it was the same. How are we, it was kind of recommitting to the things that, who we are to each other and making sure that something like that didn't change us. And, we kind of listed all the things we were grateful for. And at the same time, it was like, we still have to wake up a day or two from now and be parents. And how is this going to change our marriage? And so it was just like a recommitment. And really, it was a recommitment to ourselves and to our family, but also like a perspective of, kind of where we were. And you got to fight for those moments. And that's kind of what I think the summer has been, outside of trying to get better for the Celtics, is fighting for the moments to, make sure your marriage and your family are still the two most important things before anything else.
Has it helped the process for you coaching wise that she was a coach and she was an athlete and like maybe she kind of gets some of it, maybe more than in somebody else would?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think even further, she was a single mom. So she has this like competitive, she was a single mom for a while. And so she has this competitive desire and like this, go get it mentality. And, she refuses to allow anything to kind of get in her way. And so that helps. I think also she's allows me to kind of, do the things that I need to do, or I think I need to do in order to be at my absolute best. And so, I think, just like with our team, if she doesn't give me the full support and if I don't feel like she's got my back, I can't do it. And she has that. So I'm grateful for that. It's her birthday today.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what do you got? You doing anything special? Come on.
I took her we went to the US Open. She's a big tennis fan. So that was,
okay.
Yeah.
If you remember the parade, it was the most intense we've seen Joe Mazzulla. He talks about that intensity and how he finally got to let loose a little bit. That's coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. We've talked about FanDuel a lot here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. That's because it's America's #1 sports book, but also because they have cool things for you. And right now through September 22nd, so you still have almost 3 weeks to cash in on free NFL Sunday ticket. All you have to do as a FanDuel customer, any FanDuel customer, you get $5 on anything, and you get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with your YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you will be able to cancel anytime. And with the multi-view Sundays, I mean, cash it in, sit on the couch, enjoy. Maybe you've made a few bets on FanDuel. You can keep track of everything with the multi-view. It's really worth it. So go check it out. FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA. Make that your second listen. And I'm there on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. So it's a lot of fun. Rotating hosts all week long. It's a great way to keep up with the league. All the big talk, all the big discussion. Let's continue our discussion part one of my conversation, segment two of part one of my conversation with Joe Mazzulla heading into parade day. I want to stick with the celebration theme and the post championship for a second, because you're out there, you're in a torn meniscus at this point. Parade is happening, and I remember thinking, like, I heard you talking in the media aftermath of the championship, and I'm like, I wonder if Joe's going to be able to enjoy this moment, or if he's going to get too into like, okay, what's next? And then the parade comes around, and you are on top of the duck boat. You are flexing and screaming, and you're jumping off on the torn meniscus. First of all, did that hurt? How is the knee? And just what was that moment of you? It seems like the parade was almost like this kind of release for you.
Yeah, it was, because knee's good, didn't hurt. And I really felt like I just had to match the intensity of the environment. I felt like the people that's one of the most intense things I've ever been a part of, and it's one of the coolest moments you've ever been a part of. And, the fans and the community brought it. So, like, I mean, as much as I would love to have just sat there and kind of stoically just enjoyed the process, I felt like I had to match the energy of the people. And so it was a release, because it was like one of the times where I could be as intense as like the people around me. So it was like an intensity and a passion, but I was really mirroring the people. Like I was, once it first started, I was like, man, like those are the two words that came up. Like, this is the most intense, passionate thing I've ever been a part of. And it was a great release. That was a good way to put it.
But you also don't mind dipping into the intense portion of your personality from time to time, right? I mean, let's be honest.
I've learned how to try to fight to work on that so that it doesn't always come off that way. But I mean, if I had my choice, I would stay in that mode for 95% of the day.
Is it true that you dented the trophy?
No, I did not do that. But I'll take the blame.
Retrospect says you did.
I'll take the blame for whoever did.
Do you know how it got dented?
I don't.
Are you going to say?
I mean, I had it for I really didn't have it that much. I had it for the next day. I took it to the North End. We took it to Dorchester. And then after that, I didn't see it for a while. So,
well, Jayson had it for a while.
Let's just say it was a team effort. Let's just say we all played a part.
Who was in charge of that thing?
We do everything as a team.
You had it. Yeah, of course. Dent the trophy as a team.
Yeah, so we all play a part in small dents.
I'm sure they can buff it out. But you had the trophy. Jayson has the trophy. Derek has the trophy. It seems like every day it's in a different. Who is in charge of like taking that thing where it needs to go? That thing is like teleporting to where it needs to be.
I don't know. I think it's as simple as like a sign-up sheet.
Really?
I think so.
You sign up, you're like, oh, I want the Larry O'Brien trophy today.
Yes, I think there is I think there's a sign-up sheet.
Is there a tiebreaker? It's like if you want it and Jayson wants it, Jayson gets it. It's like he at the top of the list, or
I mean, he is. He is above hierarchy than I am, so I think he would get first dibs on it, which I'm okay with.
Sure. So this summer, obviously, Jayson goes to the Olympics, and there's a whole thing going on there. Whatever happened, right? How do you hope that Jayson processes the Olympic experience, the not playing in a couple of games, and it not going kind of the way he thought it would go?
I mean, I would say throughout that whole process, I can't hope or know or project or think that both, because I think Jaylen and Jayson both went through similar situations as far as having a goal and not achieving it. And I don't know how they processed it. I didn't really try to figure it out. I think watching both of those things kind of unfold more than anything else motivated me. Of like, our two guys, whether they can control it or not, have gone through a little bit of a adverse situation, and I got to be better so I can help them be better. And that was just kind of how I thought about it. Was like, I don't know how they're going to handle it. I can't control how they can, but I can control how I help them. And so as I was processing that over the month or so, it was just like, where do I need to get better to make sure I help them get better? And that's just kind of how we're going to attack it. And I'm sure they're different. So they'll go through different phases of how they'll look at it. But my number one job is to help them be better. And so I got to be better. And that was it motivated me to get better.
what do you think of the concept of like revenge? Like, a lot of the conversation out here in my world is, oh, Jayson's going to see the Warriors and Jaylen's going to see the Warrior and Steve Kerr and all of that. And they're going to want their revenge. And this is going to be their opportunity to take it out. What do you think of the concept of the revenge game? Do you encourage that feeling? How do you process that?
Yeah, again, they're going to go about it the way that they're two, competitors, and they are who they are. They're two, great players. So I'm not going to try to figure out how they're going to go about it. If they want to take revenge on that particular game, that's great for them. Like I said, my number one job is I got to grow as a coach. I got to get better so that I can get them better and help them get better and be a catalyst for growth. Revenge is healthy, and it's not at the same time. I think, just like anything else, you can have a little bit of it, but I think it's a short-term thing. And, when that runs out, what are you going to rely on? So I think there's short-term moments to use all different kinds of motivational tactics, but they can't be long-term solutions, And the long-term solution is just growth. We just have to get better every single day. We got to grow individually. We got to grow as a team. And you bounce around those short-term motivational tactics that you may need from time to time. But the long-term approach is the growth and the handling of both success and failure. They're both dangerous if you don't handle them properly.
You talk about being better. And it seems like that's always a quest, right? You're always looking at each day, how can I be better? You were at the Olympics. You were at the US Open. Jaylen, everybody jokes about like I think the story was relayed that Jaylen talked about you guys going to the Red Sox game, and he said something like, I'm sure Joe's going to take something from this. Like, we're all going to be playing shortstop in a practice because Joe saw something in this game, and he's going to take something.
We have that game. We have that. I just finished clipping that game up last week.
The Red Sox game?
Yeah.
So what do you take from the Red Sox game? So what do you take from the Red Sox game?
I mean, it's a simple tactic of you take a look at that game, and the Blue Jays are up 6-2, and the Red Sox are dead in the water, and it's the bottom of the seventh, and then there's a routine fundamental infield fly ball, and the Blue Jays let it fall, and that's the beginning of the demise of the run. And so something as fundamental as just catching a foul ball and having the communication of who's catching it is the difference between winning and losing. And I think that's the biggest. We're all going to get asked about what the storyline is. The storyline is it's the fundamentals. The storyline is it doesn't matter whether you win a championship or not. You have to commit to the details, and you have to have an understanding of what goes into winning and losing. And so, we're all sitting there all, happy because we just did something that, quite honestly, doesn't really matter anymore because it's over, and we're watching a game and it's 6-2 and they don't communicate on a fly ball. And the next thing you know, there's a home run. I think it was what do they call that? Individual home run. So then it goes to 6-3, and then they get on base, and then there's a 2-run home run, and then there's an error, and then next thing you know, they lose in the bottom of the ninth. And if they catch that fly ball at the seventh inning, the game's probably over. And so, you have to understand what goes into winning and losing on a consistent basis, and those things are important. And if you don't commit to those, it doesn't really matter.
So at the Olympics, you get exposed to maybe seeing some other sports that you don't normally see on a regular basis. What did you go watch, and what do you take from these other sports?
I mean, I think watching individual sports is very valuable because as much as we're in a team sport, I think everybody is their own entity and individual, and you got to get guys to be at their highest peak performance. And so I love being in the arena of individual athletics because it shows, the growth and the mental toughness and the constant change that's going on. So we were at the 400 meter, I think, when Quincy Hall outran that guy in fourth and ends up winning the 400 gold medal. We were sitting right there, and there's so much you can learn from that. He was in fourth place coming around the turn. So you can look at it from his perspective of quote unquote, did you want it more? You can look at it from the number one's perspective of did he do enough to win it? Then you see the guy win the 1500 and the tactical approach that he took to not go for it too early in the race, and then goes for it at the end and finds his window. Those are just simple details that lead into winning and losing. You take a look at the relay. We're definitely going to be practicing baton passing and relay passing because it's a simple thing that they probably practiced over and over and over again and got it right. And it's not about practicing it over and over again. It's like, can you do the most simplest things under the highest amount of duress? And that to me is the challenge of our future, is like, can we continue to do the most simplest things under the highest amount of duress? And those things are important. And so like I did that. And then at the U.S. Open, it was fascinating. It was my first time ever there. Again, my wife's more of a tennis fan, but watching each individual player self-regulate in the moment, and how they handled, the psychology of how they handled the ebbs and flows of a point, of a miss serve, of a big shot, of a bad shot, how they responded to the crowd, how they responded to their coaches. One match I watched and I charted, and like one of the girls only talked to her coach like 4 times. So like she had the poise and the security and the understanding of the preparation that they went into before the match to get through whatever it is that she was going through. And another player was there was constant communication there. And so how does that go into the growth and the execution under duress? And fascinating that like you wake up the day of a tennis match and you don't know if your match is at 7 or at 9:30. Like you just have to stay ready. And so there's a mental toughness approach to. There's a mental toughness and there's an adaptability. Like imagine if, tip off was at 7, but then it was like, yeah, we're not going to get started till 9:30. Like how would we handle that? So like maybe we should try that. But the self-regulation of the ebbs and flows of the game was like one of the coolest things to watch. There.
I think a 9:30 tip off on a 7 p.m. schedule start's called an ESPN game.
Yeah, but like think about it. Like they do that every night during a tournament.
Yeah, right.
It was fascinating.
It is fascinating. Is it possible for you to watch any sort of sporting event for pure entertainment purposes, or are you always just on? You just always taking something?
Yeah, I mean, no, not a big into the entertainment business.
Aside from everybody wants to make jokes about the town, but you didn't even watch that for entertainment. You watch that to calm yourself down. You don't watch it. Do you do anything to entertain yourself?
I like to spend time with the family.
Okay.
I would say that's relatively entertaining.
No binge watching a show. No.
Yeah, like the last hour of my night, we'll watch a show. But then again, like there's a lot of like there's so much that goes into like we went to a Broadway show Friday night, and I was trying to study the breathing frequencies of the actors to see how quickly they can respond going from singing to talking and talking to singing. Like you have to have an innate ability to control your heartbeat in order to go from singing to talking back to singing within a matter of like 4 seconds. And so like started wondering what their recovery process is. What do they do breathing exercises? Like, we went to so no entertainment really.
That's part 1 of the conversation. Part 2 is tomorrow. We'll talk about the killer whale stuff. If you remember from Sam Hauser, his entire concept of killer whales and humility, his time at the Patriots practice, talking to new Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo. We'll talk a lot about this upcoming season. We get into this upcoming season in part 2. I think it was so cool. First of all, so cool for him to come on for as long as he did. Just looking back on this episode, really interesting to hear him talk about that Red Sox game. If you saw my reaction to when he said, already have that game clipped, it took a couple of seconds for me to be like, you have what? The Red Sox? Oh, what are you talking about? And he, on the surface, when you hear his quotes, it seems like, wow, Joe is a maniac. But when you hear about what he's talking about with the Red Sox, and yeah, if you just caught that pop fly in the bottom of the 7th, they wouldn't have gone on that run. And he can apply that to, yeah, we lost this game. Maybe you go back to that Cleveland game. We lost this game against Cleveland, because of the fourth quarter, but we could have done this, that, and the other thing earlier to maybe prevent that. Or maybe we lost it down the stretch, but we could have done something at the beginning of the fourth quarter to prevent that. So he just finds these things all over the place to gather inspiration And I just find him fat. I think did that start playing? I don't know if you heard that, but this concept of doing baton passing in relay passing in practice. If any of this gets back to the Boston Celtics, like Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are going to be hearing that and go, "You got to be kidding me! We're going to do like baton relays in practice." Like, yeah, buddy, get used to it. Start studying the 4x400 relay. So, Joe is a fascinating guy, but when you hear about the killer whale stuff, man, it makes sense. He sounds, as Drew Holiday calls him, crazy, but he makes sense. I hear it. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally get it. So I just love the way his brain works. It's not the way everybody's brain works, but you'll hear more of that tomorrow. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. Make sure you're subscribed. Hopefully I can have more guests. Maybe Joe will come back at some point, but make sure you're subscribed. And I would love it if you are subscribed, if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.